If you've ever had a hard time with overfoiling a natural blonde and making her over the top, this is the dynamic blonde. This is a dimensional, natural grow out blonde. It's me, your girl Katie, your bleach daddy, and I'm at Bobby Hair Studio today, and I'm going to be showing you what it is that I do for someone who's naturally like a level 7, 8, and they want to be a soft blonde with highlights, but they don't want a root line. They want it to look natural so they can grow it for at least a year between appointments, but they still want some dimension and some warmth, and just they kind of want everything, but they still want high up highlights. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I call this the dynamic blonde, and I'm going to show you how I foil the entire head. And today I'm using my FRAMAR cheat code by using these foiling combs, and I'm only going to be using the peach one and the quilted looking one. That's the medium and the large. So I'm going to show you how I use those today with every single section of the head. We are sectioning into a mohawk, 2 side sections, and then the back. And again, this is going to be a really, really simple way to do it, but I'm going to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it for the full head. So if you're new to hairstyling and you want to know how to do foiling and not over foiling a blonde, this is going to be the video for you. So we're going to start with the back today, and what I'm going to be doing is taking triangle sections from the nape of her neck, and we're going to start with our medium comb, which is the peach one here. If you've never seen these combs before, they are a foiling weaving comb, and they do all the weaving for you. So it's great for anybody who either just gets a little bit what do I call this, like autopilot when they foil, or if you're newer to it and you want to cut down some of the timing in your foiling process. These are fantastic combs because they do all of the weaving for you. Also, for anybody who might have any kind of disabilities or carpal tunnel or any kind of issues with their wrists or hands and they don't want to be doing all of that back and forth fast weaving, these foiling combs are fantastic. So I'm using the medium weave one right now, and I'm going to be doing the same thing on either side of the head here. So I'm only going to show one side, but I've done both. And as you can see, I have sectioned quite a bit of the hair into the foil for those underneath nape sections, because those are going to be little pops of blonde that we want to see. And that's going to make her high ponytails look super cute. It's going to have those little blonde baby hairs in it. This right here, I am leaving out a pretty sizable chunk, and it's in a triangle shape for a reason, because I want the back center area to have the most depth and darkness. I want the areas around the ears, like this kind of halo section around the whole perimeter of her head. I want that to have probably the most like consistent blonde within there, because it creates almost like a softened version of a money piece. It just creates some, again, dynamic look to the blonde, and it's just not the same foiling all over the head. That's what you don't want to be having here, is you don't want to have the exact same foil pattern everywhere, which is why most of the time when I'm using these weaving combs, I like to use more than one size. And so for the back section, what you're going to be noticing is the pattern that I'm doing is anytime I use these medium weave sections, they're going to be on an angle in a V shape, and they're going to come towards the center back in this kind of V shape on that angle. And I'm going to be saturating with the lightener up pretty high. And then with the larger comb, I'm going to be doing that as the centerpiece that connects these two pieces, but I'm going to be leaving out quite a bit of hair out of any foiling, because that's going to be my contrast, my depth, my shadow, and my dimension. So you can see right here in real time how I actually use these combs, and I use my finger to separate what's a highlight and what's a low light. And it might, again, seem like there's a lot being left out here, but again, just trust the process. This is what it's supposed to do. And you can see that I've got larger sections on the outside kind of V shape of this bit here, and I'm not going quite up as high with my saturation, and I'm doing quite a bit of feathering. That's to give a natural soft grow out to these underneath pieces, because this client, my sister, she loves to come in like once every year or two. She doesn't come in very often. So when we even do her foils, we don't bring them right up to the scalp, because if we bring them right up to the scalp, it's going to grow out as a hard line from the scalp. So if you give it a little bit of this kind of, how do I word this? Give it a little bit of variety for how high you bring up your lightener. That's going to allow your client to have longer between appointments. And honestly, when it comes to it, going a 1/4 of an inch lower down on some pieces and a 1/4 of an inch higher up on some pieces. It's not a big difference in the world for how long it would be for them to come in, but it does make a big difference for how it looks as it grows out. Instead of having everything go to the exact same spot, that's when you get hard grow out lines. So you can do a full head of blonding for someone and still have them be on the lower maintenance schedule. They don't have to be coming in every 8 weeks. Now we're onto the side of the head here. I'm just going to be showing one side, but I am repeating this on the other side. I'm going to start with my medium foil comb, and I'm going to be taking a teeny tiny section, but most of the hair is actually going into the foil here. Just a few little pieces are being left out, and I'm going to use the pointer and pinky method to hold on to that right there and go up as high as I possibly can, because this is right around the face and we want those little baby hairs to be super blonded up. And I do a double fold on all of my face foils because, again, these ones tend to slip as they're holding on to little soft little baby hairs. There's very little hair in the foil. The foil can get heavy. So doing a double fold actually locks it in extra. Now I'm going to be using a larger weave here because that's going to give me a pop of blonde. As you can see, those weaves are significantly bigger in the large weave than they are in the medium weave comb. And this is going to give her that pop of blonde just behind those soft little baby lights around the face. So she's, again, going to have a really soft ponytail coming up, but she's still going to feel quite blonde. Now, here's what I like to do after I do my first 2 face framing pieces is I like to connect the front and the back by going on a horizontal angle. I'm still angled upwards a little bit, as you can see, but this is how I like to do my foiling now is I can connect the back to the front like this, and you get a pretty seamless blend. Sometimes you might find that as a new stylist, when you're doing foiling and you have different patterns around the head, you can see that in the after result. But I find that connecting things like this here, you're still on an angle like you are in the back and in the front, but you're just using a connecting zone, I guess. This area also has a little bit more hair being left out of the foils. And that's to give the front a little bit more of that. I don't really know if I want to call it a money piece because it's not a solid, aggressive blonde bit, but it is more condensed blonde in the front. But again, it's softer foiling, and using the medium weave and using a ton of feathering with my brush is going to give her a really, really soft, I guess we'll call it a money piece today, but it's for that whole perimeter around her head, around her hairline. We're using the medium weave on purpose, and that's to give it that really soft grow out, but higher up blonde that really blends in with her naturals and her natural platinums, which we like to call, what the grays are, her natural silvers, her natural platinums. Now we're going to be doing a slightly new pattern for the mohawk today. You're going to see that with the medium weave, I am doing the natural where I cut part of it out and I leave it out in between. And with the large comb, what I'm doing is I'm just taking a large section and I'm weaving that immediately. I'm not leaving out any drops, nothing like that. This is going to be really scary for a lot of people. Look at how much hair is going into this foil. You're probably thinking there's no way that's going to lift up enough. That's not going to be blended enough. It's going to look really chunky. And this piece right here, I am drooping down quite a bit lower than the rest of them, as you'll see, because this is around the apex of the head where we want to give that teardrop shape. So I'm leaving a little bit more root out and a little bit more blending with my fingers because I want to have a little bit more root left out in that area. Because that's where the hair tends to open up and create this big black hole for a lot of people. So the little bit more root that you give or the softer foiling you do up in that area, the softer the grow out will be. Then I'm going back in with my medium, the same way I have been around like the whole head where I do drop out some hair. And then again with the large, I don't drop out hair before I do the weaving with the comb. And that's going to give a really soft, almost balayage effect in between the medium weaves. I'm going to do this for the entire mohawk up until I'm kind of hitting that face framing area. And yeah, you can see as we're approaching the last foil, is quite a few foils going in, is a little bit of a boring process, but you guys get the idea here of what I'm doing with this new pattern. The large weaves are going to give that pop of blonde while still being soft up towards the root, and the medium weaves are going to be the highlights that go up to pretty much almost the root. Now our face framing is Again, not really a money piece because it's not super bold. It's going to be really, really soft, again, for the needs of this client. But what I'm doing here is I'm doing consistent fine sectioning, and I am using the medium weave comb. And what I'm doing is, instead of dropping anything, I'm just, again, cutting that in half with the weaving comb instead of dropping out anything. So this is going to create a super soft, almost baby lit looking foiling in the hairline, but you're still going to be having little pops of blonde in there. It's not going to look like standard baby lights where it all just kind of looks like her natural is one level higher. This is still going to have a bit of contrast between because of the medium weave in the foil. And of course, I forgot to film the toning process. So we used the Schwarzkopf Vibrance 9-57, which is a gold copper and the 6 volume. And the reason why I love this toner is it gives like this really soft, shiny wheat blonde. It's not brassy, as you can see. Look at how nicely that turned out. It is so soft and warm and golden on her skin. And because she has these radiant blue eyes, they just make the color pop, and it looks so natural too. It doesn't look like a raw blonde or an over-processed blonde or a white blonde. That's not what we wanted. We wanted natural, soft, summery blonde. And I think that we pretty well got that here. And you can see with around her hairline, it's still super soft, but it does have that little bit of a blonde pop there, especially when she puts up her hair too. And this is what it looks like. You can see it's dimensional. There's multiple colors in there, but it's not a hardcore contrast. And you can do this honestly with any base color. You can do this with a super dark base color and a super light foiling. This is just a really good way to get in those highs and lows and dimension of that color popping through everywhere. Then of course, you know, we curled it. Look at how hot she is. Oh my God, my sister is so hot. I'm sorry. I love her. Anyways, this is what it looks like curled, and you can see even more of that depth and dimension. And this is why I call it the dynamic blonde. And I hope that it kind of simplified some of that full head of foiling for some of you guys. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes making blondes too blonde, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.